He's a punk, he's a dog, he's a pig, he's a con, a bullshit artist, a mutt who doesn't know what he's talking about, doesn't do his homework, doesn't care, thinks he's gaming society, doesn't pay his taxes. He's an idiot. Colin Powell said it best. He's a national disaster. He's an embarrassment to this country. It makes me so angry that this country has gotten to this point, that this fool, this bozo, has wound up where he has. Well, I'd like to punch him in the face.
You got to be ready to throw a punch. You have to be ready to throw a punch.
Donald Trump, I think you need to go back and punch him in the face.
That I thought he should have punched him in the face.
I feel like punching him.
I think I'd like to take him behind the gym if I were in high school. If we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him.
No, I will go and take Trump out tonight.
Take him out now.
When was the last time an actor assassinated a president?
They're still going to have to go out and put a bullet in Donald Trump.
Show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
Please, get up in the face of some Congress people.
People will do what they do.
I want to tell you, Gorsuch, I want to tell you, Kavanaugh, you have released the whirlwind, and you will pay the price.
We're going to go in there, we're going to...
This is just a warning to you Trumpers. Be careful. Walk lightly. And for those of you who are soldiers, make them pay.
If you had to be stuck in an elevator with either President Trump, Mike Pence, or Jeff Sessions, who would it be? Does one of us have to come out alive?
What we've got to do is fight in Congress, fight in the courts, fight in the streets, fight online, fight at the ballot box.
Folks, Donald Trump is a convicted criminal. Convicted. Mr. Trump raped her. No, I mean, it's the judge's line, not mine. Raped her. As many people understand the word rape. Folks, Donald Trump is a business fraud. Most importantly, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, Trump is a threat to this nation. Trump said if he wins, he'll be a dictator on day one. He means it, folks. We're not going to let that happen. Over my dead body will happen.
The purpose of this video is to give you an insight into how the media and the opposition and general public reacted to Trump during the aftermath of the assassination attempt.
As Trump bows down to dictators, he makes America weak. And that is disqualifying for someone who wants to be commander-in-chief of the United States of America. That is disqualifying.
Look, there's so much violence now on the way we talk about it. I mean, the whole notion that there is this, there's no place at all for violence in politics in America. None. Zero. And we've reached a point where it's become too commonplace, not assassinations, but to talk about it. For example, you know, the January 6th, the attack on the Capitol.
Well, let's talk about the conversation this has started, and it's really about language, what we say out loud, and the consequences of those. You called your opponent an existential threat on a call a week ago. You said it's time to put Trump in the bullseye. There's some dispute about the context, but I think you appreciate
I didn't say crosshairs. I was talking about focus on. Look, the truth of the matter was, what I guess I was talking about at the time was, there was very little focus on Trump's agenda.
Yeah, the term is bullseye.
It was a mistake to use the word. I didn't say crosshairs. I meant bullseye. I meant focus on him. Focus on what he's doing. Focus on his policies. Focus on the number of lies he told in the debate. Focus. I mean, there's a whole range of things that, look, I'm not the guy that said I want to be a dictator on day one. I'm not the guy that refused to accept the outcome of the election. I'm not the guy who said that we'll accept the outcome of this election automatically. You can't only love your country when you win. And so the focus was on what he's saying, and I mean the idea.
But have you taken a step back and done a little soul searching on things that you may have said that could incite people who are not balanced?
Well, I don't think. Look. I'm not engaged in that rhetoric. Now, my opponent is engaged in that rhetoric. He talks about to be a bloodbath if he loses, talking about how he's going to forgive all those, actually, I guess, suspend the sentences of all those who were arrested and sentenced to go to jail because of what happened in the Capitol. I'm not out there making fun of, like, remember the picture of Donald Trump when Nancy Pelosi's husband's hit with a hammer, talking about, joking about it?
This doesn't sound like you're turning down the heat, though. You've talked about
no.
In your last TV interview, you were asked if you had watched the debate. Your answer was, I don't think so, no. Have you since seen it?
I've seen pieces of it. I've not watched the whole debate.
And the reason I ask, because I guess the question is, are you all on the same page? Are you seeing what they saw, which was moments of, frankly, that appeared to be, you appeared to be confused?
Lester, look, why don't you guys ever talk about the 28 lies he told? Where are you on this? Why didn't the press ever talk about that? 28 times it's confirmed he lied in that debate. I had a bad night. I wasn't feeling well at all.
Tonight's Tenacious D gig in Newcastle has been postponed amid calls for the band to be deported. What? United Australia Senator Ralph Babbitt wants them booted over a comment about Donald Trump's attempted assassination. Jack Black's bandmate Kyle Gass made the remark when he was presented with a birthday cake during Sunday's show.
Make a wish!
Trump next to me.
I don't know what shocks me the most, how quickly it took them to go back to the hateful rhetoric. After only days that Trump survived the assassination, or throwing hateful speech towards Trump and not backing it up with any evidence. People can see through the virtue signaling. Harris and Biden have had their time, and the country is in a mess. Saying that they're going to get things done when it comes down to elections. They could get things done right now.
Donald Trump is also very old and a racist and a neo-Nazi. But anyways, I'm not even going to talk about Trump right now.
It's an opportunity for the former president to take the temperature down on Thursday and show that in his remarks if he's capable of it.
He's capable.
Well,
I
listen,
hope he is.
He'll, that's what he'll do. I don't know if he'll stay with it. You know, he'll start that way, and then he'll lose his mind and it'll start again. We'll be right back.
Donald Trump is an elderly man who, for whatever reason, was given 9 seconds to take a iconic photo op during an active shooter situation. Weird situation, we'll figure that out one day. But his survival of that and bouncing right back and going right to his convention is being conveyed in the media world as a sign of strength. This current president of the United States is 81 years old and has COVID. Should he be fine in a couple of days, doesn't that convey exactly the same thing? That he's strong enough, older than Trump, to have gotten something that used to really be fatal to people his age. So if he does fine out of it and comes back and is able to do rallies, isn't that exactly the same?
The reaction to the assassination attempt has exposed a sickening and pure hate they have towards Trump. Misinformation and heartless speculation on that he was dazed or comparing it to Biden's having COVID shows a loss of humanity just because you dislike Trump.
No, I mean, look, what happened on Saturday was, could have been the most disastrous event.
But why did he need you?
Well, that's a matter for, his team to answer, not me. No, I mean, listen, it was right that I came.
Right for who?
It was the right thing to do. I have friends. I don't know whether you do or not. Maybe you don't. But I have friends, and when they're in having a tough time, it's right to go and support.
And is that the sense you've got, that he's having a tough time right now?
He nearly died.
Do you think he's having a tough time right now?
He nearly died.
On Saturday, I was shocked when I heard that he has been shot, and I just wanted to know if he was okay. It was heartbreaking that someone would do that to another person. A lot of people have put my grandpa through hell, and he's still standing.
Now, for me, I have a lot of faith in the American people. And I don't know very many men who want to be talked to the way that this man has been talking to men in his audience. I don't know any women, and I know his grandchild was up on the thing, and they're trying to humanize him and change your idea about who this guy is. Don't fall for that.
Trump. Talking about Trump.
Former President Donald Trump, soon to be new President of the United States of America. This is guaranteed he's gonna win. Trump got up like Tupac got up when he got shot. I mean, we're gonna have to change his name to Trump. Pac Trump. Goddamn, this got up pumping his fist. I mean, it was beautifully staged. The shooter is dead. I don't know, it was just too perfect. He's just turned and nicked his ear, and then, a little trickle of blood. He might have had a little blood packet in his hand.
In those roles, I took on perpetrators of all kinds. Predators who abused women, fraudsters who ripped off consumers, cheaters who broke the rules for their own gain. So hear me when I say, I know Donald Trump's type.
But they got rid of, they changed the primary rules while we were running the primary. They changed 60 different rules to make it impossible for anybody to challenge Joe Biden. One of the things that you remember that they did to me is I've been campaigning in New Hampshire, so they adopted a rule that said that any political candidate, any Democratic candidate who campaigns in New Hampshire, who steps foot into the state of New Hampshire, that all of their votes would go to the president, all of their delegates would go to the president, instead of going to that. And then they shut down the Florida primary, they shut down a bunch of primaries and just said, we're not running them. We already have our candidate. A few weeks ago, President Biden was ridiculing Vladimir Putin, who won 88% of the vote in Russia, and he said, that was a fixed election because President Putin had made sure no adversaries could challenge him, and also that he had fixed the press so the press wouldn't cover his adversaries. Well, the Democratic Party succeeded in doing the same thing. I haven't been allowed on any of the Democratic networks, ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, as you know, Fox has allowed me on, although Fox, people like you have allowed me to speak, you debate me, you give me a platform, even though you don't agree with things that I say, and I think that's the way the media is supposed to work.
Since being appointed by border czar by President Joe Biden, Kamala Harris has undoubtedly been a complete failure in her job and has destroyed our country by releasing a record-setting levels of criminals, rapists, and terrorists into our communities. Despite the attempts of the fake news media to whitewash her appointment as border czar, as Axios correctly reported, and they're now lying and say they never did, she was in fact labeled a border czar by nearly every major news outlet across the country. She also posted the Minnesota Freedom Fund to bail out violent Black Lives Matter terrorists who burned down cities, looted stores, destroyed communities, and caused over $2 billion in damage to American communities all over America. Kamala Harris is not only the border czar, she is also the czar of chaos, and her policies have destroyed American.
We called to say Michelle and I couldn't be prouder to endorse you and to do everything we can to get you through this election and into the Oval Office.
Oh my goodness.
I said it because President Biden himself said this is your job to her, and he said it publicly. And her job was to bring some control to the southern border. She said, don't you come in. And what happened? 8 million people came in. Right, so at that stage you realize she's very bad at the job Joe Biden gave her. So that's why they're lying. They're lying about calling her the border czar, because if it turns out she was the border czar, which she was, then it becomes her problem that 8 million people, or many more perhaps, have come in illegally in their tenure. And that becomes a huge stick to politically beat her with as she runs for president. So I think the stakes on this particular issue are very high, and that's why you're seeing a very illuminating attempt by much of the mainstream media, who skew very liberal, as we know. They are trying to pretend they never called her that, because to admit that she was that is to admit she was responsible.
Yeah, the other thing that they're pretending is that Joe Biden never said that the reason why he picked her was out of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and that his choice was going to be a woman of color or just someone of color, but primarily a woman of color. If you were to point that out now, oh, she was a DEI choice, you will be called racist, when in fact Joe Biden actually did that. Yeah. So this is another kind of denial in which, oh, this never happened. Actually, all we're doing is we're just boasting that we have a good memory.
Are you confident that there will be a peaceful transfer of power in January 2025?
If Trump wins, no, I'm not confident at all. I mean, if Trump loses, I'm not confident at all. He means what he says. We don't take him seriously. He means it. All the stuff about if we lose, there'll be a bloodbath. It will have to be a stolen election. Look what they're trying to do now in the local election districts where people count the votes. They're putting people in place in states that they're going to count the votes, right? You can't love your country only when you win.
Mr. President, we so appreciate you giving us an hour of your time. I want to start by addressing the elephant in the room, sir. A lot of people did not think it was appropriate for you to be here today. You have pushed false claims about some of your rivals, from Nikki Haley to former President Barack Obama, saying that they were not born in the United States, which is not true. You have told 4 congresswomen of color who were American citizens to go back to where they came from. You have used words like animal and rabid to describe black district attorneys. You've attacked black journalists, calling them a loser, saying the questions that they ask are, quote, stupid and racist. You've had dinner with a white supremacist at your Mar-a-Lago resort. So my question, sir, now that you are asking black supporters to vote for you, why should black voters trust you after you have used language like that?
Well, first of all, I don't think I've ever been asked a question so in such a horrible manner. First question. You don't even say, hello, how are you? Are you with ABC? Because I think they're a fake news network, a terrible network. And I think it's disgraceful that I came here in good spirit. I love the black population of this country. I've done so much for the black population of this country. Including employment, including opportunity zones with Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina, which is one of the greatest programs ever for black workers and black entrepreneurs. Done so much, and and I say this, historically black colleges and universities were out of money, they were stone cold broke, and I saved them, and I gave them long-term financing, and nobody else was doing it. I think it's a very rude introduction. I don't know exactly why you would do something like that, and let me go a step further. I was invited here, and I was told my opponent, whether it was Biden or Kamala, I was told my opponent was going to be here. It turned out my opponent isn't here. You invited me under false pretense. And then you said, you can't do it with Zoom. Well, where's Zoom? She's going to do it with Zoom, and she's not coming. And then you were half an hour late, just so we understand. I have too much respect for you to be late. They couldn't get their equipment working or something was
Mr. President,
wrong.
I would love
I think
if you
it's
can
a
answer the
very
question on
nasty
your rhetoric
question.
and why you
I have
believe that
answered the
black voters should
question.
trust you with another
I
4
have
years.
been the best president for the black population since Abraham Lincoln. That's my answer.
Better than President Johnson, who signed the Voting Rights Act?
And for you to start off a question and answer period, especially when you're 35 minutes late because you couldn't get your equipment to work in such a hostile manner, I think it's a disgrace. I really do.
Let me just ask a follow-up, sir.
To some breaking news now happening out of Brooklyn, where we have learned that the FBI arrested a Pakistani national accused of plotting to assassinate politicians in the U.S.
CBS 2's Dick Brennan live in our newsroom now with details on the investigation. Dick.
Well, Maurice and Christine, the suspect is in custody, accused of planning to assassinate current and former U.S. officials across the political spectrum. Sources tell us they include former President Trump. Now, the suspect is identified as 46-year-old Asif Merchant, a Pakistani national. They say Merchant planned the murder of U.S. government officials on American soil, and they say the alleged murder-for-hire plot is, quote, straight out of the Iranian playbook.
This is in the minutes right after the shooting. You can hear these cops talking about what went horribly wrong. One officer livid, saying he told the Secret Service to secure that watch.
I'd say this is a sorry, not sure which gas company. Somebody got them. I haven't. Why are we not on the roof? Why weren't we? I told them they need to post the guys over here. I told them that the Secret Service. I told them that Tuesday. I told them to post guys over here. What?